back to another episode of Community Conversations. I am your host, Andrea Zeydelis, founder and CEO of BetterTogetherCommunity.org, the only online platform dedicated to nonprofit organizations. Today I'm speaking with Abby Daly of Bridge of Books, a nonprofit based out of Central New Jersey. Does it exist? It does. Let's listen in on how Bridge of Books is supporting children across New Jersey.
Thank you for having me. So excited to make the connection. My name is Abby Daly. I am the founder and executive director of the Bridge of Books Foundation. Basically, nearly 20 years ago, when I was getting ready to give birth to my daughter, and I was going to be lucky enough to be able to stay home, I wanted something to remain involved in the community, you know, in between the diapers and the play dates and the feedings. So someone that I worked with in my previous role as a children's rights attorney had a niece who had started the Bridge of Books Foundation in California, and it was just the perfect fit. And so I brought the Bridge of Books Foundation to New Jersey. And, you know, within the first 3 to 5 years, it really became a passion once I started to see the real disparity in access to books among children right here in New Jersey. You know, fast forward nearly 20 years later, as an all-volunteer organization, we have distributed nearly 1.3 million books to children in all 21 New Jersey counties from birth through age 18. What we do, how we do that is we collect new and gently used books through book drives, through school projects, through Girl Scout projects, Boy Scout projects, National Honor Society. Basically, collecting books can be a really good project for kids. We have a whole part on our website under Get Involved, which has basically the A to Z of doing a book drive from start to finish. And it's a great way for kids to start to learn about project management skills, design, thinking about how to manage something and be responsible for it. And ultimately, it's the parents who have to do the delivery of the books because we leverage the community in terms of our success. You know, people will deliver books to us from, 2 hours away. People will come and pick up books, as far as 4 hours round trip. I've had teachers who will come that far to pick up books because they're so excited to find out what we do.
What was your background?
My background? I'm actually an attorney.
Oh, wow.
Retired now.
Okay.
I worked for the state. First, I did mental health commitments for children and adults. And then I moved over to the Attorney General's office, where I represented our children's rights agency. It's now called the Division of Children and Family Planning, it used to be called DIFAS when I represented them.
Right.
And I represented the agency in abuse and neglect and termination of parental rights cases. Okay. And so that's how I first got into an awareness and or connection with the underserved population in New Jersey.
Sure. I love that. I think a lot of the times, and it's not surprising, our children are our catalyst. Our own children of like, we're becoming parents, we're becoming mothers, and our children are inspiring us to take a step back and to do something different. And like you mentioned at the beginning, 20 years ago, you're looking for something to get involved with your community. That's how this started for me.
Yeah.
So, I moved out here, I was saying 8 years ago. I moved to New Jersey 8 years ago, and I was a young mom. I had 2 little ones, and I was looking for a way to get involved in my community. And that's how this came about. But I think the great part you said too is it teaches children management, but also teaches them community organizing, which is incredibly important, especially now. The Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, all of those different groups are doing that work, but it is so universal in just trying to show the children how you get involved in your community and how you can help each other. and that it's so local.
And it's
on such a
empathy.
and
It
it's
also
empathy. Yes, yes.
introduces the concepts of empathy and giving back, because, you know, children right here in our own state, I mean, and even until I started to really get into the work that I've been doing, I was kind of blown away when I would discover, you know, 20 minutes away from me, there are kids who had no books in their home. I mean, as recently as December, we got a call from a very local social worker. School social worker was concerned about the speech development of a kindergartner and a preschooler from a Spanish-speaking home, come to discover there's only one book in the home. So we went and purchased 12 bilingual books for the home. And so they went from 1 to 13 books in the home, which is still not a lot, but it's a big leap from where they were. And that was literally 5 minutes from my home.
Right.
So
and I think it is always kind of shocking to think of, you know, New Jersey in general has a very high, you know, ALICE, asset limited income
yes,
constrained employed population. And it varies across the counties, but it's still very high. And people think, oh, you know, New Jersey's really well off. They have their property taxes are so high and everything else. But there is a lot of, books seem sometimes like a luxury where they shouldn't be. And there, it is so incredibly important, especially at a young age, to get children interested in reading, because it's the foundation, it's the basics of just being able to accomplish anything moving forward.
yes.
So thank you for that. 20 years, thank you for that. That's a lot of work. And this is all volunteer based, you said, right? For the
Yes, it's volunteer led. We've had some an administrative assistant paid part-time, you know, for a period, but we don't have her right now.
Okay.
So it's volunteer led. It's been my full-time volunteer job for the past, you know, nearly 20 years.
So you say children's books mostly, right? It's running the gamut from newborn to high school, or is there a younger set?
It's birth through age 18.
Okay.
You know, so we do everything from board books to, you know, what we consider young adult. And I mean, of course, there's some crossover in terms of adult books and it becomes a little more subjective, but we really draw the line at high school graduation.
What's your capacity right now in terms of bringing things?
We started out in a single storage unit in Red Bank, and we grew to, depending on donations at the time, we grew to about 4 or 5 units, and we got to a point where we were getting so many requests and we wanted to be able to scale up that we started to look for an actual distribution facility. And we were able to find donated space, and we had that for 5 years. And from the year that we went into that space, we doubled our distribution from about 75,000 books to almost 150,000 books. And that really was a huge indicator of what having a centralized distribution facility with a loading dock and access and operational support really meant for our mission and our capacity. And so, surprise, surprise, during COVID, the company that had donated space to us shut down, and they changed their operations, and we lost our space. We had taken a storage unit again before they opened back up because, you know, people started wanting books. So, and we were able to find 2 additional storage units. So now we have 2 storage units in Red Bank and 1 storage unit in Atlantic Highlands. Those storage units can fill up with donations inside of, you know, 2 hours because people have books to give. They want to give books. I am having to fend off, you know, requests to donate books every day, literally, just because we don't have room. And being in a storage unit, we really don't have the capacity to have any volunteers of any sort come in because it's you have to pull everything out, you have to set it up. It's it's basically, it's a storage unit. I mean, it's inside, but it's still a hallway. It's cold. So we really haven't had volunteers other than high school kids or our own family members who we can sort of coerce into helping us. And so that has become the challenge of sorting the books out and packing them. And being in a storage unit, we also, anything that we find that's not suitable to be distributed, because we do get things which are in terrible shape, we have to take out of the unit ourselves. Yesterday, I took an entire carload of books out of one unit that had to go to the recycling center, and cardboard and things like that. So it's super inefficient, but we are still getting books out. I think right now I have, I'm going to say close to 20 to 25 outstanding requests for books for children, for over 4,000 children across the state. And these requests are just coming in. So we really need a distribution facility, and we are in the process of building a business, making the move to build a business around the mission, because the mission is in no danger of extinguishing itself. You know, the need for the mission has not by any means been fulfilled, nor do I think it will be fulfilled, given that the impact of virtual education and the disparity in access during COVID. I don't think we've seen the fallout from that is yet to come. And so, you know, I think we really started to think, and as an executive director and a founder, I really started to reflect on, you know, the fact that being a founder-led organization is very much so a strength. And I'm the first to say that, but it's also a weakness. And so I'm trying to be honest about that and look to the community for help in making sure that Bridge of Books becomes sustainable, you know, gets on really on that path to sustainability, and that it moves into a mission in and of itself, and a business and an organization that stands on its own.
To have a distribution center centralized within Middletown, within that county area, like, and I don't want to say central New Jersey area, central or.
I think within Monmouth County, within sort of eastern Monmouth County, that's really where our volunteer base is right now. But at the same time, you know, we're looking to create ongoing, I'm going to say partnerships, you know, ideally with businesses and communities, and deeper than just book donations, more, you know, financial support, you know, board members to be able to hire. I mean, I could see it if we hire somebody who's from another county and it made sense to move it to another part of New Jersey, that's fine. But right now, our volunteer base is sort of in eastern Monmouth County. So really sort of Monmouth County is what we're looking for. And, you know, I recognize that we may not be able to find donated space because I don't want to put the organization in the position of taking a space and 2 years from now being told, okay, you have to leave this space.
Right.
And to that effect, we're also, you know, we need to rebuild our board and sort of be more deliberate about enlarging the board and putting people on the board who have backgrounds in finance and really backgrounds in business. You know, in terms of the business community, we track everything that goes out. So we can produce numbers about, you know, regarding the number of books that have gone to each county. So really from a business perspective, your service county, it's in the interest of us all, you know, to see Bridge of Books continue. It's an investment in the future. It's investment in the development of literacy skills, you know, from a workforce perspective. And beyond that, it's just an investment in giving children the opportunity to develop that love of reading that we all have.
This year, how many books have you distributed? Not this year, 2022, but 2021. During the pandemic, was it easier or harder to get in there and distribute those books?
It was harder, but I think that the distributions, and we did not distribute anywhere near what we did when we were open and fully operating. But the distributions that we did do, I think, were more meaningful because of the conditions under which they occurred. When COVID first hit, we were fully closed down for about, 4 or 5 months. And then we started to get inquiries, we're doing food distributions, do you have books? There's a school right in the area. We'd love to have some books to go with it. The Atlantic City Library came up and they were starting to just, those individuals who recognized that need and saw how constrained some of the children were by school being closed down, lack of access to Wi-Fi, having to sit outside of McDonald's to try and get Wi-Fi so you could do your schoolwork. Those distributions became more meaningful. And that's when we really put an effort into getting into those storage units, having the drop-offs, putting the donations together so that we could get books into the hands of those kids. I had one person from like the East Orange area, he would come down every couple of weeks and pick up, boxes of books and literally line them up on the walls outside the school so that when parents and kids were coming to pick up packets and their meals, they could take books too. I mean, it really was a sense of, coming together to try and ease the stress that was caused by the impact of COVID, and maybe try and head off some of the educational issues or shortcomings that, clearly came up.
It was difficult. Education in general virtual education was difficult personally for me. We went through it. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I had 2 high schoolers who both were very good about it, and they both, did fine with virtual education. I think if I had had younger kids, or if, I had kids who did not do well with the virtual, we might have been in a very different situation.
It's situational. It's a lot. It was a lot.
Yes.
So I'm hearing a lot of different obstacles that you're facing currently.
They're challenges.
Challenges, sure. The challenges faced by Bridge of Books currently, finding space, finding that space that could be a potential distribution center, locating board members. It's not easy. Nonprofits in general, we usually start very small. We usually start with the core group, and then either that core group move on, or they move away, whatever have you. But I think the interesting part, and what I am trying to bring together with Better Together, is that there are potential board members out there, people who are interested. They just don't know what the next step is. Because I can tell you, I meet people all the time who want to join a board. They want to provide their expertise, whether it's the financial piece or their just marketing expertise to a nonprofit. They just don't know how to get in touch. So what I'm going to do is, after this video, all of that information is going to be at the bottom. We'll provide an email address that individuals can contact you, because it is incredibly important to get people who are interested and passionate about the mission. So if you're interested in educating New Jersey children and from birth to 18 for the distribution of books, I think that's also like a logistic issue, where somebody who has that experience might even be able to lend a hand in that sense as well, to see it from a different point of view,
Absolutely.
So, I think so. Did I miss anything? Is there other challenges that I missed? Oh, tell me more a little bit about volunteers. How can volunteers help?
Right now, what I say is, as far as volunteering, other than, maybe figuring out if there's a need for if there might be a connection for a board position, it's really doing a book drive, because we don't have the capacity to have volunteer groups in. When we were in our previous location, we could have groups in, and we had volunteers days set up, and we'd gotten to the point where we sent a calendar out each year saying, volunteer hours Monday and Tuesday from 9:30 to 12:30 of these weeks, or if we could have corporate groups in. So that's not really an option right now, and that's what we'd like to be able to get back to. So that's what we're trying to work on right now.
Let's try to get you back to where you need volunteers, for sure.
Yes.
We want to, accomplish address the first couple of challenges, find your distribution center, find some new board members. Are there any other challenge, like the need from the community? I know right now it's a little bit hard to hold on to the things, to hold on to the books. Is there a quick turnaround? Are you able to, can you request specific items and then have those things committed from the community? Or is it more just people have what they have?
I think it's usually people have what they have. And, what we've really tried to fend off too is schools will send us their libraries that they close down, and their libraries generally are books that, they say discard on them, or they haven't been taken out by anybody in the last 5 years. So they just think that the kids we serve would be interested in. That's not the case. And it's insulting if I picked up a book that said discard on it, that's a little demeaning, and that's like we say, if a book's supposed to have stickers, it's got to have all the stickers. If it's supposed to have a necklace, it's got to have the necklace. We try to be very, very careful about that. The other thing, and this is really sort of that younger generation, because who's more social media savvy. If there are kids who have ideas about sharing our story and raising money for us, or, ambassadors who are going to share our story, and somebody, we've toyed back and forth with a junior advisory committee. If there's an enterprising young child who's interested in that, and it's about, what I say to people is, think about the very first books that you owned, or the very first books that you remember reading, and what those books meant to you. And, that's what we're trying to give to children in New Jersey who don't have that opportunity and who don't have the access, because all children deserve that. And, we don't just stop after preschool, because kids who don't learn to read by 4th grade, that's the big transition year from 3rd to 4th grade. And, always in the news and in the media, you hear about preschool, preschool readiness, early childhood education. You don't hear so much about, middle school. And, then you hear the bad things about high school, kids who aren't reading, they all drop out and all that kind of stuff. We try to talk about them, and we try to get excited for them, and try to make sure. That's why we serve middle school through high school. In fact, I just went out and got some books into Trenton High School, and the teacher was so excited to be able to offer her kids new books, because when you create the access and it's there, and kids see high interest variety, it's like they almost can't help themselves. But they're not going to go seeking it out, or they're not going to look for it. Many times they can't, because there's no library in their town, and they don't have a bookstore in their town. But if they have a teacher who we've supported by creating that free library, then, there's a chance, and, these kids are going to go for it. And that's what's important.
I know books for me when I was younger were a way to better understand the world and kind of hear the stories of other people. It also opens your minds to different perspectives,
Yeah.
So I feel like, having this Bridge of Books here in New Jersey is so incredibly important, and we definitely want to support you any way that we can. I'm going to put all the information for Bridge of Books down at the bottom of this video. For sure. Let's get you connected. Let's get you connected to some people, and we'll definitely talk more.
Fabulous. Fabulous.